Impact Zone fam! How we going today? We're back here again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans, of course. Today, we have to talk about the whole situation with some of these indie bookings. I think it was MJF versus Nick Nemeth, and I think it was Leon Slater. Was it versus Ricochet? I think that was it. There was some other matches here and there, I think, that may have been planned or were in discussion that TNA decided, well, I think WWE actually decided, but they decided to say, hey, even though we okayed this match, whatever it was, I don't know how many weeks ago or how many months ago, or whatever it was, and now here they are finally, promoting it or whatever. And here it comes, I think this was all for WrestleCade, or over WrestleCade weekend, and whatnot. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know the specifics of that. And, obviously I don't know the specifics of, who actually made the call or whatever, or when or whatnot. Well, sort of when, but, you know what I mean. But I don't have that information. Maybe there is a bit of the information out there, but I don't really care to dive into too much of the specifics. I'm more here to just talk about I don't guess it's an incident, but the incident itself, the whole thing itself, and saying that did TNA make the right decision or make the wrong decision or whatever. Look, bookings and these sorts of things, like I've said it before, card subject to change, brother. Shit happens. And I don't know that they needed Nick Nemeth or that they needed Leon Slater that weekend for tapings or for a promo or for meet and greets or whatever else it was. I don't know what they were saying, hey, no, we now we need you to do this, or now we need you to do that. Maybe there was a conflict of interest like that came up. It was oh, well, we've actually booked you for this podcast, or we've actually booked you for this, or your agents booked you for that, or whatever. We didn't realize we missed it, or something like that. Shit like that can happen. I don't think it was that. Obviously, in this case, I don't think it was that. But again, that same mentality. Card is subject to change, brother. They can choose to say, no, sorry. That doesn't work for us, brother. In a sense of saying, hey, well, especially if both of our guys or even one of our guys or whatever else it is going to lose, and then when are we going to get a rematch? Or when is there going to be another match between these two? And how is that going to pay off for us? Again, AEW stars are already, even in perception-wise, they're a lot bigger than TNA stars. So again, having your TNA stars lose to these bigger stars just can make them look like chumps. And yes, you can say, oh, well, it makes them look good, look competitive against the AEW guys. Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I will absolutely take that perspective 100%. But here's the I guess the not 50-50 booking angle from this. If this was a 50-50 booking, I think that they could have been a little bit more oh, okay, well, one of our guys is going to get the win, the other guy is going to get the loss or whatever else. So, okay, maybe we can do that. And maybe that was something that came up during the conversations later on, and they said, actually, if both of our guys are going to lose, then we're just going to say no. Obviously, in this case, I don't think that, again, that is the case. I think this was much more of a case of pretty much just WWE being hey, wait a minute, you guys can't work with those guys. You've got to pull those guys from those shows, or whatever. But yeah, like there's obviously still like that potential, or that sort of stuff that I would consider, hey, well, you know, let's agree to do something else, or let's negotiate a little bit more, and perhaps those negotiations would have fell through or whatever else it was, and therefore at the point that those negotiations fell through, it was like, well, now we're not gonna let our guys go out there to lose and look like chumps. So yeah, but again, say it doesn't matter whether WWE was behind this call. I think, well, actually, I guess it does a little bit, but again, because obviously, I think in this sense, like like it's pretty much like writing on the wall. I don't think that it was, or it's pretty unknown in that regard that WWE had a hand in this. It's like, maybe there's not like the paper trail right now. Maybe that'll come out more later. Or I suppose paper trail, I'll put that in air quotes, but perhaps there's not that trail of like, oh man, like we can definitely see where this, came from, who the higher ups were in this decision. Was it Shawn? Was it Triple H? Who was it? What was it? Was it just saying, hey, you know, like I don't think this would have come from probably, maybe it would have came from Carlos, actually, maybe, I don't know, but like the actual like phone call, like I assume so, at least, anyway. Like maybe it came from Dreamer. I don't know who else is like in like talent relations or whatever else it is. So again, you can make that argument that, well, it had to be somebody that's higher up in the company, sort of that sort of thing of, those guys that have been there a long time, that have, well, a long time, but have been there for a while and have, put in the work and whatever else it is and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, anyway, it's one of those things of, I don't know, you putting those guys out there. I think the biggest mistake, in some ways, more or less, was like having signed off on them initially and then having to go back on it. I think that's the biggest issue for me, or for my perspective at least. You shouldn't have signed off on these things if it wasn't okay. You know what I mean? There should have been checks and, discussions done beforehand to say, hey, no, don't do that. So yeah, I don't agree with that. And I cannot agree with, like, perhaps that, like, again, like, WWE interference. Like, I don't agree 100% with that either. I don't think that that's cool. If, again, we shouldn't, like, if WWE suggests something, we should be all ears in a sense, but we shouldn't just be taking orders from WWE. They don't own us, or they don't own TNA. So, and yes, we have a partnership, and you do try to make partnerships work or whatever else it is. And so sometimes you make concessions or whatever else it is for the other party or whatnot. But to me, again, TNA has made a lot of concessions for WWE. And a lot of the concessions that WWE has made, for the most part, have actually realistically just helped WWE. Yes, in some ways they have helped TNA, but not to the extent that they've helped WWE. The WWE guys that have benefited exponentially more than the TNA guys. You know what I mean? Again, Moose lost to Obafemi. Then there was no rematch or whatever. And that sort of thing. And again, Moose was like one of the most major guys like in TNA, and is still one of the most major guys in TNA. Like, and again, like, that match didn't need to happen while Moose was the X Division champion. Maybe it should have happened after he lost the belt, so that again, and when was West the X Division champion? I can't remember, but he lost. Oh, I'm thinking about Wesley or whatever, and then Desmond Xavier. He beat West while he was the X Division champion. I'm pretty sure. So that's another time that it's like, man, here you are beating two of our guys, and West has just won this belt. And plus, like, they had a big hand in saying, hey, put the belt on him, bring him over here, blah, 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 and then he's going to lose. Or, well, he is going to win, but then he's going to lose. But again, when you're like you're doing that consistently, and again, like, it's tough because again, like, I get the concept again, where it's like TNA needs these things more so on their shows because it is more about them and their characters for the most part. So again, when somebody wins something from NXT or whatever, or back from NXT more so, it's like, well, yeah, sure, great. That happens in TNA because, again, that's TNA getting their shit back, But, like, when you don't have some of that sort of stuff happening in WWE, it's like, well, all you see in the WWE perspective is these TNA guys come in, have a random match that doesn't really mean a whole lot, win against some random jobber, and then get beat to the actual, superstars, so to speak. So again, like, that's been consistent. That was what happened with Jordynne Grace. That's what happened with Dez. Like, sort of happened with Moose, kind of. I think, did he have another match with somebody? I can't remember. But again, like, Joe Hendry, same sort of thing. But mostly he was like even though Jordan was a prospect they got later, it was like, wait a minute, So yeah, like, you didn't ever like sit there and go, no, we've really got to put this thing in a moment and make people be like, oh yeah, she's actually gonna win. She's actually feeling like, or Jordan's gonna win, or this person's gonna win, or whatever else it is. No, they just win a random match against some jobber and then lose. Okay, great. That does not, next week or whatever it is. It's like, great, cool, great. What the heck, And you're not seeing a lot of people. Well, I suppose there's not a lot going on for TNA stars on NXT right now. But you're not seeing any women go over there to challenge Ariana Grace from TNA. So it's like, what the hell's going on there? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, where are they? Why aren't they over there? Why aren't they trying to chase down the belt more, or whatever else it is? It just shows, again, WWE is like, oh, no. We don't care. We don't want your guys over here unless we actually actively want them, So, or can try to tempt them over here or whatever. That sort of thing. That's what they want. They want to show people, hey, come over here, come work for us. We'll give you money. We'll treat you well or whatever. But like, yeah, or fairly well, and it is like a loving locker room over here. I'm sure the locker room is, but I don't know whether management is. But anyway, same thing here, sort of thing. Like, don't, like, it's card subject to change, but don't promise things that you can't deliver. You should, like, if you were going to have an issue with this, you should have checked. And again, like, I've said this so much now, but I don't know how much longer this friggin' TNA NXT deal or contract or whatever it is. But the thing is, it's like, it's time to end it soon, very soon, as soon as possible. Get it over and done with. You know, I'm actually amazed that they actually they didn't allow some of these people to wrestle or whatever for the most part, but they allowed Abyss to come back over and film some vignettes in TNA and whatnot and that sort of thing. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, it's like, how many, like, I don't want to say main roster guys, but how many major guys has come over from WWE and actually wrestled? Like, maybe 2, maybe 3. That's about it. Like, Oba, Trick, and yeah, maybe JC, if you really think that she's a major star, or they think that she's a major star. You know what I mean? That's about it. So, like, appearances, yeah, sure. You've got age. Oh, well, I don't know whether Bully and Devon should count, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, you've got, like, people who have actually turned up, like AJ and Abyss, and said, hey, hi, how's it going, or whatever, but then disappeared. It's like, well, it's great to see you and all, but people don't want to just see you. They want to, see you come say hi. They want to actually see you do something, be involved in a story, have a match or whatever. And I know Abyss is retired, but still, like, they want to see you. They don't want to just, they want to see you do something, not just be here. Like, that's cool to see you be here, and maybe, like, we'll get AJ for the Hall of Fame. That's pretty much the last thing that I hope that WWE lets TNA do. And that's where I'm hoping that we go, hopefully soon, and wrap that up and just say, okay, look, if you want to work with us from now on, you can work with us. You give us a call and say, hey, we want this person to come over and do something. Okay, cool. We'll let you do that. What are we going to get out of it? Nothing. Oh, okay, great. Well, we're not going to do it then. Exposure? That's not enough. At a certain point, that's not enough. Just saying, oh, do it for the exposure, kid. Like that's not doing anyone anything. And yes, maybe they get a good payday in some ways out of it. But again, if you're sitting there and being like, well, what are we really going to do out of this? It's like, yeah, well, come on, we can't just, like, flounder off. We need to keep this ball rolling. So it's all a thing of saying, well, same thing. If once this thing is done, which I hope is soon, and definitely more so soon, is like, if AEW comes a knocking and says, hey, you want to work together? Okay, maybe, sure. What are we going to do? There is that negotiation, or there is that ability for, I think, actually, I just saw something on Twitter there of, I think Tommy Dreamer wanted to, I don't know whether this was for Busted Open or for something else. I can't remember what this was for, or what it was actually for. I don't know whether it actually said, but I think Tommy wanted Thunder Rosa to come over and do something or something like that. Maybe it was like just a panel of some sort. I don't know. But she said, oh yeah, but just check with your boss or whatever. Which realistically is not the boss. It's the boss, like inferred to be WWE, but again, like, there is that where it's like, hey, we're trying to honor our commitments. I understand that. And some of that commitment says, hey, don't work with AEW, or whatever. At a certain point, we're going to work with AEW unless you come along and say, okay, make it worth our while. Really make it worth our while. Don't screw us around. Don't screw our wrestlers around. Stop interfering in what we're doing. Stop telling us to do everything and whatnot. We're not your lapdog or whatever. That or freaking bias. At the end of the day, Either you're gonna buy us and say, okay, now we're in control, right? Let's figure out what we're doing with this or whatever, or freaking leave us alone and say, hey, maybe we'll collaborate on this, or we'll collaborate on that, or whatever else it is. We'll get Mike Santana for this. You'll get something for that. Blah blah blah. You'll get AJ for this. You'll get this for that. Whatever, whatever it is. Again, and even like I said this before. I don't even know how long ago, but did I say this on here? I don't know, but the Motor City Machine Guns over there in WWE, like as far as like their talent and their ability, they're great. Absolutely, still great. But seemingly the WWE audience gives zero fucks. They basically don't know who these guys are, don't really care and don't want to care, so it's like, yeah. They did some great stuff, but I feel like they'd be better off in TNA or maybe even in NXT in some ways, because at least that's more of the smart marks, whatever, dungeon or whatnot. So again, at least they'd be able to be like in front of more fans that are more familiar with them or whatever. And again, they're getting into that age group and that time where it's like, dude, we and they've had injuries and all this other stuff. Dude, we have to just be slowing down. We've got to be, putting other people over more so. We're the ones who've got to make everyone else look good, and not to say that we can't look good or whatever, but we need to, by making ourselves look good, we have to make them look better. They have to beat us, and they have to be looking so good so that they can carry the torch, not us. We can't carry that torch, But we are here, and we are dependable, and we are, gonna do what we do as best as what we can, and not just, actually making people look good, giving advice, talking through things. Why this? Why that? So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that I feel like, yeah, they'd be better off in TNA because, like, everyone in TNA knows who they are. And again, that's the more smart marks sort of forum that they'd be more, like, easy to work in that regard. It always becomes the question of what more can you do with them? Same thing with the Hardys, honestly. It's like, what more can you do with them? It's like, these dudes have done everything, so it's like time to say, okay, let's forget, like, not forget about you, but let's, like, move on. Let's let other people shine, because it's their time, not yours, like, you still have that shine and you can still help give it to people, but yeah, we're not focused in on you. So, but yeah, it is what it is, again, and I don't 100% agree with all of it, as I said, but it at the end of the day, like, and perhaps, like, again, this is, like, I said this before and I'll keep having to say it, this is them dangling that carrot in front of TNA, and TNA's gone, all right, okay, sort of thing. Even though, again, like, I feel like TNA has given and given and given and given and given in this relationship, and WWE has taken and taken and taken and taken in this relationship. But that's the same thing that happened in the AEW TNA relationship for the most part, realistically. So again, like, you can't just keep saying yes to them. You can't just saying, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. Like, you can't just keep doing that. And if they continue to dangle that carrot in front of you, or whatever it is, or some other variants of other carrots, it's like, well, you've been dangling these carrots in front of us, none of it's materialized, or basically none of it's materialized, so why should we trust anything that you've got to say? Because you have dangled all these carrots in front of us, and you have continued to not, follow through or follow up, or keep those promises, so to speak. So now, it's do or die. That's it. You have consistently not held up your side of this bargain. We have consistently held up our side of the bargain. We have gone above and beyond for you. You have done virtually nothing for us. Yes, you've done some stuff for us, but that's been when it's been like, no, come on, you've got to do something, anything for us, because otherwise we're walking away. And then they go, oh shit, no, don't walk away. All right, we'll give you this. All right. So that's where it's been at. So at a certain point, I really, I've said it so much, and I keep saying it. Do not get fooled by that dangling carrot. Do not get fooled by it, because if they don't deliver at a certain point, just say, that's it, we're done. No more, that's it, we're done. Right? We are done. We are not listening anymore. We are going to wrap things up with you. That is it. Maybe if you say, hey, let's do this together, we might do it, if it's a one-off or whatever else it is. But beyond that, no, that's it. We're not going to keep doing these things. We're not going to keep falling for that dangling carrot that you keep dangling, or what, even if it's a new dangling carrot, another thing, whatever else it is. No, you keep promising us all these things, but you never actually deliver on it until we're about to walk away. Then you finally say, no, come on. All right, here you go. Here's something. But for the most part, you don't deliver. You don't deliver when we say, hey, we want AJ for a match. No, you can't have him for a match. All right, well, then why are we doing this? This is what we've been building to for this whole friggin' last couple of months. So we might as well not even be working with you. So, where does it benefit us? Where do we finally get something? And then it's like, right, well, we're going to walk away. All right, you can have him, but he can't wrestle. All right. Fine. We'll take that. But we'll get him to wrestle later, or whatever. Maybe, but definitely not, there. That was the impetus there. I think the first year or so of the relationship was a real proving ground for that of, yeah, you guys just don't care. You guys will send us anyone that you really don't give two rats rectums about, for the most part, and then you expect us to send you every single one of our top level performers, which is basically all of our performers. So again, what do we get out of it besides exposure? A little bit of exposure, Plus, again, the NXT audience, besides WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble, you never had anything, well, a couple of Royal Rumbles, actually, I guess, but still, you never really had that thing of, the more mainstream crossover, and people didn't really get that. They just thought, oh, this guy's a new signing to WWE for the most part, or whatever, or is about to be a new signing for for WWE, you know, and that was it. That was like people's, or whatever. She is, he is, whatever, they are, whoever, you know, they're a new signing. Right, cool, right. You know, people don't think that much about it. So again, like when you've got these things happening on NXT, that is more of that niche, hardcore, you know, smart marks audience. So they 99% already know about all of these guys and already know where TNA is and what TNA is and all of that stuff. Yes, perhaps a few years ago, whatever, or even last year, perhaps, like it was like, oh yes, we're building up to this thing so that TNA can get their TV deal in some ways or whatever else it is. But again, if we're going to sit here and say, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to do? Why are we going to do? Etc. Right, well, what is that? What does that look like? You know what I mean? You cannot keep, you know, promising us things and then just saying no, and yet expecting us to deliver and deliver and deliver and deliver every single time. You know, that's not fair to us. So again, at a certain point within this relationship, we cannot trust what you've got to say, which again is, I think, again, why a lot less sort of crossover and stuff is happening. Not just because WWE isn't interested, because TNA isn't interested. They're like, dude, what are we going to get out of it? You know, we keep giving you every single thing that you friggin' ask for, and yet what do we have to show for it? Realistically, in terms of percentage. You know what I mean? Not just, oh, we gave you this one little thing here, we gave you that one little thing there, we gave you this one other little thing there, or we gave you that thing there. Yes, cool, great. This handful of things that you've given us. Meanwhile, we have given you truckloads after truckloads after truckloads of things, you know, consistently. And maybe not now, but again, we have, you know. So again, you don't care about us, you know, and you don't want to, you know, really work with us. You just really want to get the best out of what we've got for your own, you know, means. And so if we're not going to get anything out of it, anything substantial out of it, then why are we here? Again. So that's where I'm at with that part. Because again, like, a partnership is a two-way street, right? That's how it works. You know what I mean? And that, again, you know, shows to me that WWE wants it to be a one-way street. And I'm not here gonna say that WWE has to friggin' do everything today or tomorrow or next week or next month or whatever else it is. But when you've effectively, like, been there and saying, like, dangling these carrots in front of people, oh, we'll give you something, oh, we'll give you something, you'll get something out of it, you don't want to, you know, forget that you could get something out of it, da-da-da-da. Maybe we could, if you actually came to the table with something and then followed through on it. Don't just promise us something and then say, takesies backsies, or half takesies backsies, you know, or whatever, or takesies backsies. Then we say, no, all right, then, cool. We're going to do what we're going to do without you. We're going to figure something else out and move the fuck on. No. All right. We'll give you this thing. All right. But you can't wrestle. Fine. You know, like, that was the whole point of this, you know. But if we get to set up a match later, okay, cool. Maybe. All right. We'll do that. You know, again, then that doesn't come to fruition. Because, like, nah, we're not going to do that now. Okay, cool. Well, now it's like, we don't care. If you don't want to, if your guys don't want to come here, then don't send them. Right? If they're not interested, don't bother sending them. Don't bother telling them to come here. Unless they're interested and want to come here, don't bother sending them, because we're not interested. We're not interested in continual, again, and I don't even understand why they keep doing this thing with Ariana or whatever, but it seems like she and Stax are interested. They're invested. And realistically, again, I'll say that is a WWE storyline for the most part. You know what I mean? And I said it before, where I said, hey, no one from TNA is going over there and is in her face being like, I want that back. That belongs to us, sort of thing. Where is that? There is none of that. So again, why would people think to tune into TNA? You know what I mean? Unless you're seeing somebody from TNA coming over and saying, hey, I've got to get that back to our place. That doesn't belong here, So again, you're just saying, hey, we don't care about you. We want to make you guys look like you're inferior or whatever, or we don't even care to show you guys that you exist, because again, how does that, I get that, how does that benefit us in a sense, but it's like, well, dude, here's the thing, we're in a partnership. The only reason why she has that belt is because, you said, hey, do this for us, right? Or whatever. Or we just, I don't know actually, but, or we decided, okay, we have a story in mind. Let's tell this story, right? We can easily say, right, well, that's the end of that. Let's we'll vacate the belt or whatever, or take it off of her. The only reason this story has any legs in TNA is because TNA allows it. And at the end of the day, they should stop allowing it, in my opinion. But that's where I'm at. I still think that there is that level of, I don't know, back and forth there between them. But I wouldn't. I would be like, no, we're not gonna worry about what you're doing at a certain point, because at that point we just can't. We cannot keep, worrying about what you're gonna do and why you're gonna do it or whatever. Because again, at a certain point, we just have to do us. We have to focus in on our own talent, who we've got, and what we've got, and the time that we've got to do it with. We cannot be sitting here and continually serving this other master that doesn't have our best interests at heart. If they're not going to meet us halfway, or they're not going to actually deliver on any of the things that they say, why are we continually saying we're going to listen to what they have to say? Even if they're smart, even if they've got a good point or whatever, at a certain point, no, we're not listening to you, because, if we're not getting anything out of it, then what is it? And again, maybe you can make that argument with the AEW stars, so maybe that was another concern, as I sort of said. But again, if WWE was, which assumedly and seemingly they were behind this, saying, hey, Carlos, you can't have your guys wrestling against AEW guys. That's, somewhat a breach of the contract of us working together. And they must have agreed to some of that, of saying, okay, all right, whatever, and pulled those stars from that show. I don't know what, obviously we might not never know, because again, like I've said so much during this, and I'll have to keep saying it so much throughout, the next few weeks and months or whatever, WWE is gonna dangle that carrot and say whatever it was that they promised. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Maybe next year. Sorry. Bye. Maybe next year. Sorry, bye. Or maybe whatever, Send us somebody else. Send us this. Send us that. Do this for us. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Be our little underling and don't complain that we don't do anything for you. That does not work for us, brother. It shouldn't work for us, brother. Like at a certain point. And I think like we've well and truly past that point, and it's time to say, no, right, cool, sorry, bye to WWE. Because again, where's the payoff? And maybe there is something coming, but again, I think anytime that TNA pulls away enough just to say, right, well, that's it, bye, they finally go, oh, no. Like I said, they try to hold on to them because they know, all right, you're going to walk away, right? Okay, we can't have that. We really can't have that, so we've got to keep you in for a little bit longer and whatever else. So we'll placate you by giving you something and then promise you something that we won't deliver or probably won't deliver and then move on. Cool, great. That's the problem. They continue to trick these guys into being placated and doing their bidding, basically. So again, and there's like it reflects back to that Chelsea Green stuff. Like, here you have a very talented wrestler, but you're like, nah, she's just this. Nobody is just X or just Y. Anyone has the potential to be anything at any time. And you're saying, oh yes, if you're saying just at this point, this is what she is. Yeah, sure, that's different. But to say, nah, I don't think that she'll get to the next level or that she deserves to be at the next level. Get fucked. Like, that's the same thing of saying, like, this sort of stuff. We don't care about, like, everyone else because we don't see them being an absolute mega superstar. That's all we care about is the absolute mega superstars that we can make. That's fine if that's what you want. But again, yeah, you've got to have some bodies sometimes for these mega superstars. And you never know who's going to break out or who's going to, suddenly get over or whatever else it is. Suddenly become that megastar. So never count people out and say this is all that person is or whatever. Yeah. Or same thing for the company. The rest of the people that they have, maybe we're interested in a handful of them, but, like most of the ones that we have been interested in, like Moose, have said, nah, fam, see ya, bye, kind of thing. I'm good, G, so, but yeah, I think it's those people that have, not just held out, but sort of, seemingly do care more so and feel like, oh man, I'd rather be here than in WWE. For whatever reason that is, maybe, hey, I get more freedom, maybe I get more, indie dates or whatever, I get to work with more newer stars and I get to really dictate what I want to do rather than being dictated to. And yeah, like maybe it's just less dates or less hours or just a little bit more cruisy, or maybe I'm just like more centered into where I'm at, like I'm doing more shows in Cleveland or around where I live more so rather than having to jet set across the world every single other day or whatever it is, and do all that stuff on 15, 16-hour flights, to go to Japan, go do this, go to Europe, go do this, then come back, then, like more, US dates, and then it's just nonstop, whatever else, stuff there. So again, it is what it is. So again, you've got to have that, like, understanding when you get in this business. You can suffer a lot of jet lag in this business and whatnot. So you got to take care of yourself as much as you can. And yeah, like I said, like a lot of these people, like the Hardys and whatnot, they've made their money. So they don't really need to make any more money. So for them, I think it's more of a, conclusion. It's more of a story to conclude themselves and say, right, well, this is what we've done. This is why we've done it. And this is what it meant. And that's really cemented not this person, but that person, or this team, that team, this team, whatever else it is going forward, at least for now. So, same thing between these relationships. And again, a lot of these, like, things are, the indie level. So again, it's not like that harmful. And again, I get the people who are out there chanting fuck TNA or whatever, or booing Carlos Silva and some of this stuff or whatever else it is. But at the end of the day, like, I do hope that they realize, hey, all right, we've been scammed. And how many friggin' times have we been scammed? Too many. So, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Type thing. At this point, you're way beyond being fooled twice, 3 times, 20 times, whatever it is. So at this point, yeah, you cannot put any of the blame on WWE for like pulling the rug from under you and you being surprised by that. You should realize these things are going to happen and be like, yeah, WWE is going to call about this and say, hey, you can't do that. You say, yes, we friggin' can. Yes, we friggin' can. You don't own us, and what have you done for us lately? So again, and you, like, 90% of the time that we've worked together, none of it's really gone in our favor, and everything that you've promised hasn't come to fruition. So again, we cannot be fools forever. We cannot keep falling into that dangling carrot. So yeah, I do hope that people can, like TNA again, can, like, repair those relationships with those fans that want to see TNA wrestlers and TNA performers out there. Because again, like, perception is everything. And if you're perceived as just being WWE's lapdog, well, if that serves the fans, yeah, sure, that's great. But if it doesn't serve the fans, then that's bad. So at the end of the day, we need to serve the fans. What did the fans pay to see? Why? Are we going to be part of that? Why? So again, don't just say, we're doing this. No, we're not now because WWE says no. No, we're not. We're going to keep doing it, WWE, because, again, no more carrot bullshit. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about this situation. I know it's a lot of the same sort of thing, but nailing it down really is important, and getting people to understand, and again, I would love to talk to these guys and say, why the fuck are you still doing this? Why are you still falling for that dangling carrot that they keep offering you? You know what I mean? I would have, like, at the 3rd or 4th time that they would have, like, tried to screw me over, I would have said, no, that's it. We're done. Bye. No, that is it. We are done. Goodbye. Not if they had have offered me a half measure and then said, no, we'll give you this. I would have said, no more half measures. No more quarter measures, no more this, no more that. No, that's it. We're done. Goodbye. That is it. This deal is over. Goodbye. You have reneged and you have breached and you have not met your commitments to this deal. We are not interested anymore. So if you want to work with us, call us. Maybe we'll work something out. But, it'll be a one-off at the best. That is it. So, yeah. But anyway, guys, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this one way or the other and are going to be all right out there in this crazy world at this crazy time and can join me again in another one.